Hey guys, Jim here with another video for you. Excuse me. This is Drive-In Memories Volume 2, 1982 through 1985. But before we begin, at the end of this video, if you like what you see, please consider giving me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, but most importantly, please leave those comments below. I really love discussing movies with you guys, and any kind of correspondence back and forth is definitely appreciated. So as I said in the introduction, this is the second installation of this three-part series. The first part had to do with basically the 70s and early 80s, and I decided to break it up into three parts. This is the second one, and it has to do with 4 years, 1982, 83, 84, and 85. Now, there's not nearly as many movies this time around as there was last time for a multitude of reasons. Number one, I was getting to be a teenager. In 1982, I was 15 years old. So I wasn't going to the drive-in with my parents as much anymore. And also the following year, in 1983, I actually started working at the theater as an usher. So because of that, I didn't go to the drive-in as much as I did when I was a kid. I did still occasionally go, though. And again, sometimes with my parents, sometimes with a sibling. Sometimes as the decade went on and I got older, either I would drive my car with some of my friends or girlfriend, or go with other friends, teenagers. So if that makes any kind of sense at all. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with 1982. So we've only got 4 titles from this year. Now, I definitely saw more than 4 movies at the drive-in, but these are just the movies that I have on Blu-ray, with the exception of one coming up that I have on DVD. So let's just go ahead and begin. In 1982, these are the movies that I saw at the drive-in. The first, Conan the Barbarian, directed by John Milius and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Earl Jones, Sandahl Bergman, among others. To this day, this is my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I absolutely love this movie. I think the musical score is phenomenal. And even in the little speakers at the drive-in, that score came through, and it just sounded amazing. There was 3 Sword and Sandal movies that summer: Conan, The Sword and the Sorcerer, and Beastmaster. I saw Beastmaster at the drive-in as well. Not with Conan. I forget what I saw with this, and I forgot what I saw with the Beastmaster, but I did see both of those movies at the drive-in that summer of 1982. Sword and the Sorcerer I didn't see until it came out on cable. Next, Visiting Hours. This is a slasher with Michael Ironside, Lee Grant, and William Shatner. Standard run-of-the-mill slasher movie. It's elevated mainly because of Michael Ironside's unhinged performance as a psycho. He's really good in it. But again, the movie's not that great. But I did remember seeing this theatrically at the drive-in, along with Cat People. This one is directed by Paul Schrader. Stars Natasha Kinski, Malcolm McDowell, Annette O'Toole, and John Hurd. This is a kinky movie, man. And it was kind of uncomfortable watching this movie with my parents, because yes, these movies, all of these from this year, I did see with my parents. And you'll notice a motif of that, because we got another one of those next year. But Cat People, it's a really underrated erotic thriller. I would not call this a horror movie, although Malcolm McDowell is quite creepy and frightening in this movie. And the last one from 1982, and this one's a biggie: The Road Warrior. The second installment in the Mad Max saga, starring Mel Gibson and Bruce Spence, and directed by George Miller. We went and saw this theatrically at the drive-in, as I said. Had no idea that this was the sequel to Mad Max. Everywhere else in the world, this movie played as Mad Max 2. Here in the States, and I believe in Canada as well, it was The Road Warrior. I saw Mad Max on cable before I saw this movie. And when it started, when they were showing the flashbacks, I immediately started getting excited and said, hey, this is Mad Max. This is the sequel to Mad Max. And my dad had no idea what I was talking about. He actually almost wanted to leave at the beginning with the narration, hearing that it was an Australian accent and this and that, and he thought it was just going to be some cheap foreign movie. But I asked him to stay, and he agreed. And 10 minutes into this movie, he loved it as much as I do. And I still absolutely adore The Road Warrior. It is such a great movie. Now we're going to jump up to 1983. Like I said, this was the year that I started working at the theater. But at the beginning of that summer, I still did go to the drive-in a couple times with my parents and a couple times with my sister. So we're going to start off with The Final Terror. Now, I know I saw this at the drive-in, but I don't remember a thing about it until I saw it again when I bought this Blu-ray. And this movie ain't that great. It really isn't. The main thing that this movie is known for, if anything, is number one, it was directed by Andrew Davis, who went on to do The Fugitive and many other great movies, Under Siege. But the cast: Rachel Ward, Adrian Zmed, Daryl Hannah, Joe Pantoliano. I mean, there's some great, Lewis Smith. There's some great actors in this movie at the beginning of their careers. The movie, like I said, hit and miss, not that great, but the cast really is solid. Here comes that movie I was talking about, like cat people, that I saw with my parents. The Hunger. This was Tony Scott's movie debut. The late, great Tony Scott, I should say. And this one stars Catherine Deneuve, Susan Sarandon, and David Bowie. Again, erotic thriller, this time dealing with vampires. Great movie, very stylistic. It's definitely a moment of time. I mean, stylistically, you can tell exactly when this movie was made, but it still holds up. And the makeup effects on David Bowie are incredible. They were done by the legendary Dick Smith. Again, strange movie, but I really do enjoy this movie. So that's The Hunger. Then we have National Lampoon's Vacation. My favorite Chevy Chase film. Co-starring Beverly D'Angelo, Anthony Michael Hall, and Randy Quaid, among others. Directed by Harold Ramis and written by John Hughes. Absolutely love this movie. Have loved it since that first time I saw it at the drive-in. Like I said, it's my favorite Chevy Chase movie, and it was definitely one of my favorite comedies of that year. Then we got Strange Brew. Starring and written and directed by Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis, and co-starring Max von Sydow. Again, ridiculously stupid movie. Absolutely love this movie and always have. This one I actually saw with a couple of my buddies. One of my buddies got a driver's license early, and yeah, we went and saw this one. I do not recall what else was playing with it, but yeah, love Strange Brew, always have. Here's the one DVD, and this is a great one. Blue Thunder. Starring Roy Scheider, Daniel Stern, Candy Clark, Malcolm McDowell, and the late, great Warren Oates. This one is directed by John Badham. And I love John Badham's movies. He is a true journeyman director. He has directed some incredible films, like this one, Saturday Night Fever, The Hard Way, so many. I saw this with War Games, with Matthew Broderick and Dabney Coleman, also directed by John Badham. He had 2 movies released that summer, and both were hits. Love them both to this day. And then we've got Cujo, starring Dee Wallace, Danny Pintero, and Daniel Hugh Kelly. Directed by Louis Teague, based on the Stephen King novel. I discussed this on the Years of Film. I'll bring up the story again. Me and my sister went and saw this one theatrically, and about halfway through the movie, I am not kidding, a goddamn dog walked across in front of the car and scared the living shit out of both of us. This happened, like I said, in 1983. We're in 2024 now, and we still talk about this anytime Cujo comes up. Love the movie, but I cannot watch it without thinking about that initial viewing with that dog. It's just, you can't make this shit up. In our last one from 1983, we're going back to Bond with Octopussy. This one I remember seeing with my parents. Do not remember the movie that was playing with it. But I do remember my father's reaction to this movie. He was not happy. Actually, no, I do remember the movie that played with this. Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone, the movie. Because this is what jogged the memory. On the way home, on the way there, he was looking forward to Octopussy. I was looking forward to Twilight Zone. My mom wanted to watch them both. Okay? And on the way home, he hated both movies. She liked half of the Twilight Zone, and I liked 3/4 of the Twilight Zone. But both of us agreed that Octopussy was pretty bad. Now, for years, this one was actually one of my least favorite Bond movies. It's still not top tier, okay? But it's either a combination of the years being kind to it or some of the crap that came out after it. But quite frankly, this movie has gone up the ranks through the years for me. I don't hate it. I still don't really like it, though. Okay, now we're up to 1984. And this was a double feature from the same disc pack. Bachelor Party and Revenge of the Nerds. Absolutely love both of these movies. Bachelor Party was like Tom Hanks' second starring role, theatrical film, behind Splash, which came out like a year earlier. Revenge of the Nerds came out of nowhere. And out of the two, Revenge of the Nerds was the bigger hit. Through the years, people have turned on both of these movies. I still really enjoy them both. I think they're great. Then we have The Last Starfighter. Directed by Nick Castle, I believe. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, directed by Nick Castle. See, I'm not that bad. Starring Lance Guest, Catherine Mary Stewart, Robert Preston, and Dan O'Hurley. Again, love this movie. Have always loved it, mainly because of Robert Preston and Dan O'Hurley. The two of them are absolutely fantastic in this movie. And last from 84, because again, I was definitely working at the theater at this point. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. I went to the drive-in to see this with a couple of my buddies. Got seriously drunk. Okay, one of my friends actually smuggled in some booze, started drinking. Please do not drink and drive. I am not condoning that kind of behavior at all. However, we were so plastered, I had no idea what the hell I was watching. This movie did not make a lick of sense. Then I saw it on cable about a year later, stone cold sober, and it still doesn't make a lick of sense. But you know what? This movie's entertaining. It's really entertaining, and it's got a great, great cast. That's it for 84. Now we're at 85. And in 85, again, I was still working at the theater, but by now I had my driver's license. I had a car, so I started going to the drive-in on my nights off during the summer. And I saw these movies. And here we go. First, Secret Admirer. With C. Thomas Howell, Lori Loughlin, Kelly Preston, Fred Ward, Dee Wallace, Cliff DeYoung. Great, great cast in this movie. As far as the teenage sex comedies go, this one is probably, I would say, towards the upper echelon of those movies. It's actually very sweet. The performances are good. Again, not a great movie, but I do enjoy this movie. Here's a double feature for you. And I covered this on the 85 Years of Film about how it was the science movie summer. Well, I saw a double feature of two of them. The first one, My Science Project, with John Stockwell, Fisher Stevens, and Dennis Hopper, among others. And this one is directed by Jonathan Butel. Okay movie. Nothing great, but it's entertaining. But I did see it on a double feature with this. And this is definitely the superior film. Real genius. Starring Val Kilmer. This was his follow-up to Top Secret. And William Atherton, who this was his follow-up to Ghostbusters, and he basically plays the same asshole that he did in that movie. Directed by Martha Coolidge. I absolutely love this movie. I have always loved it. I've loved it since the first time I saw it. It's just fantastic. And then we've got Do You Wanna Party? Return of the Living Dead. Directed by Dan O'Bannon. And starring Clu Gallagher, James Karen, Don Calfa. This movie is outstanding in every way. This has become a cult classic, and I will never forget watching this theatrically at the drive-in the first time. Again, saw it on my night off, went there. Was not drunk that night, but oh God, I love this movie. It is just so much fun. And that one was playing with this one. Life Force. Tobe Hooper's notorious classic about space vampires starring Steve Railsback, Patrick Stewart, and the beautiful Matilda May. Let's just say that the drive-in crowd loved this movie for the first 20 minutes. They were just laying on the horns every time she would walk out, because anybody who's seen Life Force knows that this movie doesn't leave much to the imagination about Miss May. And like I said, she is absolutely beautiful. And this movie is bug nuts, batshit crazy. I have always loved this movie. Outside of Poltergeist, this is my favorite Tobe Hooper film. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to get some flack about how could you possibly take that over Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hey, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a classic. I am not saying that. I'm saying this movie's fun as hell. We're going to end on this one. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Yes, I saw another Mad Max movie at the drive-in. Again, directed by George Miller. This time starring Mel Gibson, Bruce Spence, and Tina Turner. I saved this one for last because I saw this one at the drive-in with my brother Greg, who passed away earlier this year. The two of us went and saw this movie, and it was on a double feature with Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I don't have Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but if I did, I would have it in this video. We went basically to see Mad Max. And again, my late brother, we didn't drink, but we definitely smoked some pot. Again, this was, 40 years ago, but we were smoking pot. We got good and high. And we watched this movie and loved it. Okay? Then Pee-wee's Big Adventure started. And in the first 10 minutes of that movie, we were both like, what the hell are we watching? Why are we watching this? And we almost left. But we decided to stay a little bit longer. And right about the time we were getting ready to leave, there's a scene in Pee-wee's Big Adventure called that has to do with a character named Large Marge, who's a truck driver. Anybody who's ever seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure knows exactly what I'm talking about. And if you have not seen that movie, do me a favor. After watching this video, Google Large Marge scene from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. When that scene hit, there's a moment in that scene that made us both jump out of our seats in the car and scream and laugh at the same time. And then both of us started giggling like a couple of little kids who could not stop and looked at each other and said, okay, we're in. And we watched the rest of the movie. Now, I'm not saying Pee-wee's Big Adventure or even Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, for that matter, are great movies, although I love them both. But it provided one of my favorite drive-in memories. dealing with my late brother Greg. I hope you enjoyed this video. We are going to do one more that's going to be only dealing with the summer of 1986, and I'm going to dub that One Crazy Summer, even though there is a movie called One Crazy Summer that came out that year, and it's included in that video. But that video is going to have to deal more with my experiences of working at that theater and some of the experience of watching people in that drive-in with the theaters or with the movies that I have picked for that installment. So I hope you'll join me for that one. And then as far as this one goes, if you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe. But most importantly, please leave those comments below. And until the next time, we'll see you then.